you'll have the ability to unmute yourselves rather.
So Simeon, whenever you're ready, we're recording.
And Helen, you're on letting in people duty? Yeah. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Executive Director of Historic Districts Council. On behalf of HDC, thank you so very much for joining us for 2012's Grassroots Preservation. Our Grassroots Preservation Awards since 2000. It is one of our favorite who really support preservation efforts throughout the whole city. The Historic Districts Council, for those of you who may not be familiar, is the citywide advocate for New York's historic neighborhoods. Our primary constituencies over 500 neighborhood-based groups throughout the 5 boroughs who work to preserve the cultural, physical, and historic character of our communities. We do this through an ongoing mission of community outreach, education, and direct advocacy. And one of the things that we're most pleased with about these programs is that they give us the opportunity, as I was saying earlier, to really celebrate those people on the ground who are working in their communities and working to really save and preserve and protect the parts of New York City that mean so much to us. Today, we're actually giving one of our special awards, which is our award from the media, a friend from the media award, forgive me, friend from the media award. This is in recognition of the important role that people from our friends from the Fourth Estate play in any kind of public campaign. You can have all your information out there, you can be a great advocate, but without friends in the media who are covering it and helping project your voice, you have a much, much harder road to hoe, as it's called. So this year, we're very pleased to be presenting our Friend from the Media Award to Untapped New York. Justin Rivers, who is the Chief Experience Officer of Untapped, will be giving the award, and he will explain exactly what Untapped is. It is, however, like so much of our world, an online-based magazine and news outlet, and I do recommend everyone to go bookmark their wonderful site and sign up for their terrific daily newsletters. After Justin, I am very pleased to be presenting an award, a Grassroots Awards to the Save Valentina and Alexander Janta-Polczynski House Coalition, which is a coalition of 4 organizations: the Elmhurst History and Cemeteries Preservation Society. Mary Elena Giampino is going to be speaking for them. The Polish American, this is not the order, forgive me. The Polish Falcons of America, Tim Kuzma, who is the national president of that, will be presenting for them. The Polish American Congress, represented by Klara Wiśniewska, will be after that. And then inside Elmhurst, represented by Alfonso Kira, will round out our program. There will be time after every presentation for questions. I do ask that you put questions in the chat, and we will be going along. That's it. Thank you so much for joining us. I really wish we could all be in the churchyard of St. Mark's Church in the Bowery, sharing a drink together, but that will happen hopefully soon. Thank you so much. Justin.
Thank you, Simeon. And thank you for this honor on behalf of Untapped New York. Michelle Young, the founder, Augustin Pesquet, who is our chief financial officer. I'm the chief experience officer. I thank you all for awarding us. It is our honor. And I do have a presentation that I'm going to be sharing with you. Hopefully you are seeing my screen. And there it goes. I had a lot of fun actually putting this together. So let me get started. One of the things I'm going to talk about is an overview for a couple of minutes of Untapped New York's involvement in preservation since its founding. And then I'm actually going to talk to you about a campaign that the HDC and Untapped New York are partnering on for the Empire Station complex, which I know a lot of you have been hearing about and continues to evolve in the news today. But let me get started. There we go. So if you are not familiar with Untapped New York, there is our homepage. Actually, I decided to screenshot this event on the homepage. We are, as Simeon so well put, an online magazine. We're also an experience company. So we like to show New Yorkers and visitors the hidden gems and secrets of New York. We're also a membership group known as Insiders. I know there are a couple of insiders here tonight. Thank you for joining us. I love my insiders. They're the greatest. And that's a subscription-based service where you can get in-person and virtual events. We were happy to go virtual. Happy mistake during this pandemic, and we've grown our audience quite a bit and happy to have new audience members with us. But let's start. So Untapped New York was founded in 2009 by Michelle Young, who was a faculty member up at Columbia GSAP and interested not only in urban planning, but also architecture. And she really started getting fascinated by some of the more secret and lesser known facts about New York. In 2012, we partnered up, we became the official blog of Partners in Preservation, which was a really great honor for us. So the National Trust for Historic Preservation and American Express teamed up to award multiple sites $3 million grants, which they spread out across 14 sites. The winners that year were Congregation Beth Elohim in Park Slope, also the Bartopel Mansion Museum in the Bronx, the Brooklyn Public Library, and the Botanical Gardens. They restored their rock garden that year with that grant. And we covered each one of the nominees. We gave them profiles and we urged New Yorkers to vote for their favorite sites to get these. There were also 14 additional grantees that year, all of which we covered the full birth of them. So it was a real honor. Now, TWA Terminal, same year, in 2012, the National Trust for Historic Preservation also came to us and gave us some first look access into the terminal before it was going to be redeveloped as a hotel. And Michelle went in, as you can see here. I love these pictures and I was jealous. I wasn't there. But as you can see, this was TWA before it was turned into the TWA Hotel. And she was able to run around basically unfettered and take some really amazing photos, as you could see here. And then when they opened the hotel, I guess it's 2 years ago now, I keep losing a year because of the pandemic, we were one of the first invited back in for a preview tour. And it was a real honor for us to be there. And we were big champions of what was done here at the TWA Hotel. And I just love a good Solari board. It's one of my favorite things. So I decided to throw that picture in there. We've got tons more, but I want to keep the presentation moving. One of our greatest partnerships in preservation has been Save Ellis Island. And for those of you who are Untapped New York fans, you will know that we have had a longstanding partnership with Save Ellis Island since 2017. Save Ellis Island is a nonprofit that operates and is in charge of restoring and preserving the abandoned hospital complex on Islands 2 and 3, not the registry hall on Island 1. As Save Ellis will be so happy to tell you from the very first, they are a New Jersey-based nonprofit, and they need all the love that they can get. And of course, Ellis Island is part of a New York-based consortium, and they are well cared for. So one of the things about the hospital complex is JR, the French artist, came in and did a group of pastings using archival photographs from Ellis Island and created this, what's called JR Unframed. And Untapped New York initially started giving awareness to this project. And then we partnered with Save Ellis to actually help them to sell tours, hard hat tours, to bring people throughout this hospital complex. If you have not gone on this tour, it's an amazing tour. And that guy right there, he was lucky enough to actually film Save Ellis when the pandemic hit. said, we lost the tours right now. We can't do tours. Can we find another way to generate income? So they asked me to come in and film both the JR Unframed tour and their tour, which I was, absolutely flabbergasted and honored to do, because I got to run around with me and two people on a camera crew and film this tour. I had full reign of the hospital. It was one of the highlights of my career. And I got into spaces that even the public doesn't get to go into. This was part of a pharmacy complex upstairs. It's absolutely amazing. And Save Ellis continues to need funding. They have a massive complex, and they need all the help that they can get to preserve this complex. We are happy to announce that our hard hat tours with Save Ellis have resumed. I believe it was last month they started again, or maybe it's 2 months ago now. I don't even remember. But we're back, and we are helping them provide tours both on Saturdays and Sundays. So if you're interested, you should go out there. It is an experience you will never forget, I assure you. Mainly because, nature is still claiming these buildings, and they are wide open to the elements. And the JR project continues to sort of season as the years go by. It's really amazing. Another project that we were happy to help out in the preservation and awareness of is the SS Columbia project. Now, this is actually not New York City based at the moment. It's up in Buffalo, but the SS Columbia project is restoring the last Kirby Day steamer that was once servicing Boblo Island in Canada from downtown Detroit. This was a project that actually Michelle had introduced me to early on in my time at Untapped New York, and I started doing some work through Untapped with activating this boat theatrically, which is something we'll talk about in a couple minutes. It seems to be my jam, but this is a stunning boat built in 1903. And it is, again, right now the SS Columbia project is in the process of trying to raise $20 million to finish the boat, so that eventually someday she will come to live in Manhattan, be docked in Manhattan, and they're hoping that she'll be able to service the Hudson Valley at some point as well. She's an amazing, amazing boat with an amazing group of people behind her. And this was a photo, again, I was very lucky to be able to go up there. She's docked at a place called Silo City in Buffalo. And Silo City is quite amazing. I helped to do a little fundraising through Untapped by writing a show called Glory Columbia, which was read once in person. It was our first insider event back in the day, March of 2017, 2018. And then we did a virtual reading of it in September of this year as well, to sort of help Columbia raise some money. And it was an honor to be involved in that. Next, and I think Mary's here tonight, the Lilac Preservation Project. This is one of our newest projects that is going up in a couple of weeks. I'm really excited about this one, the Lilac Preservation Project. If you haven't heard of it, you've got to go down to the Lilac. It's at Pier 25. There she is. This is a new project that Untapped New York has been partnering, and I, with our artist in residence, Aaron Assis, are doing an installation here for Lilac's 88th birthday, which is May 26th. And we are doing what Aaron and I do best. I'm going to be doing a theatrical activation with a monologue that you're going to be able to scan from a QR code. And Aaron is doing images that are going to be superimposed at parts of the boat. Lilac is not ready to have the public back yet. I believe that's July. Mary can correct me if she's here. So what we decided to do was there's Mary right in the door. We decided to do something that could be appreciated from the pier, so that the public could be a part of Lilac's 88th birthday. And Aaron is going to be taking archival photos, 88 archival photos for 88 years, and doing the stack. And then there's going to be a QR code where you can listen to a monologue based on one of the actual captain's experiences aboard the boat. All right, but let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we are here. So my story and Untapped story begins with our Empire Station complex with the remnants of Penn Station. This was a tour that I had actually approached Untapped New York with. That's how I got involved. I'm now one of the co-owners. So this was a Cinderella story for me, because whoever in the world would want to take a tour of Penn Station? But I wrote a show Before that, here, obviously, now most of you here know about Penn Station, the old Penn Station. It's probably why some of you are even involved in preservation today. We built this, or McKinley and White built this gorgeous station in 1910. There's the main waiting room. There is the concourse. And of course, if you didn't know this, you're going, what, that's Penn? No, that can't be Penn Station. But of course it is. We lose it in 1963. As a college student, I became fascinated, did 10 years of research and wrote a show called The Eternal Space about it. Untapped New York became a media partner of mine, thankfully. And that's how my whole life changed. And I sponsored a tour bringing people throughout Penn Station. Now, initially, my goal was to raise money for the show. Then after that, my goal was to raise awareness about all of the amazing remnants left in Penn, because none of them are preserved or landmarked. And I was nervous for years that I'd lose them. And so thousands of people, we thought maybe 100 people would come on this tour, but 7 years later, 6,500 people to date have come on the tour. I did it on Saturday, 2 tours, and we have gone around and talked about what is still good in Penn. And I know that that is not something you normally associate with Penn Station, but we've gathered a little army of people who care about what's going on around Penn Station. And just to show you just how radically things change at Penn, this is one of my favorite remnants I highlight on the tour. It's an old hand-painted sign right outside of the 123, the back end of the southbound one, that used to say PNNRR trains, Pennsylvania Railroad trains, last of its kind in Penn. And this picture was taken a couple of years ago. I've worked with the Transit Museum to give this tour as well. I've said, guys, low-hanging fruit. Put a plexiglass over it, a plaque. It's a living museum in Penn Station, and they pat me on that. They go, Justin, you're so cute. Never did it. This is what it looked like on Saturday when I gave the tour. So they've removed the light. They've covered it. It looks like it's been hit by a little bit of graffiti. And of course, I hold my breath to see what's next for this. But Penn Station is alive with a lot of these remnants, which should be preserved, and Untapped began to make it its mission to help this happen. And then in 2016, Governor Cuomo announced that there was going to be a revitalization of the Penn Station, what he then called Penn Station Farley Complex, which was then turned into the Empire Station Complex. And this is from a press conference in 2016. And the idea was phase 1 was going to take this beautiful McKim and White building, which is the main post office, also built as a sister building to Penn Station, and turn it into Moynihan Train Hall. And of course, we all know that that is a reality. It opened this January. Actually, Untapped New York and myself were pretty impressed. When I saw the renderings, I was like, yeah, we'll see what happens. But I actually do like it. I think it has, as I will say twice, probably during this presentation, spoiled us into thinking how we can adaptively reuse landmark buildings. And that acre of glass over everybody's head is obviously a direct homage to the old Penn Station. And Cuomo opened it up with high hopes and feelings that this is an amazing accomplishment. And again, if any of you have joined, Simeon and I have done 2 presentations on this, one when we launched the coalition and another Jane's Walks. But he said, you know, as dark as 2020 was, to me, this hall brings the light literally and figuratively. Everybody's happy. There's Moynihan's daughter at the end. And we think this is moving New York forward, as you could see on the sign. And then about a month later, he said, oh, and by the way, we're also building Penn Station South, 8 tracks to increase track capacity at Penn, which is needed, by the way. I'm a proponent of this. But because of this, we need to demolish quite a bit of the neighborhood around Penn Station. This got scary. So he puts out a draft proposal, well, the EPS did, not him, saying that this is what needs to happen so that we can make this Empire Station Complex happen, because without the Empire Station Complex, we cannot redo Penn. So first we have to create a revitalized transit-oriented commercial district to benefit Penn Station and revitalize the surrounding area. Okay, so these diagrams were out talking about the 8 sites that were marked for this redevelopment. If you don't know the area very well, Site 2 is where the old powerhouse is. Site 7 is Hotel Pennsylvania. Site 8 is Gimbel's, or the Manhattan Mall as we know it since 1989. And site 3 is the Hotel Stewart, all of which are gorgeous buildings built in and around the time of Old Penn, all landmark eligible, but not landmarked. So number 2, improvements to area subway stations and transit connections with Penn Station. Again, we like this. They want to provide better entryways to the 123, the ACE. They would like to once again connect Penn Station to Herald Square. That would be great. We used to have that in the Gimbel's Passageway. It was sealed up in the 80s. Let's bring it back. This looks positive. And then implementation of public realm improvements, which include widening sidewalks, creating more mixed-use road, like sharing it with pedestrians and bikers. This is great. We love to hear that too. A little bit sort of poor on the proposed open space, but hey, you know, as long as they don't build 10 super tall buildings, we can live with it. Oh, but wait a minute. The creation of a revitalized transit-oriented commercial district to benefit Penn Station to revitalize the surrounding area actually requires them to build 10 super tall office buildings, which of course right now we don't know are quite necessary. And this is a big chunk of the introduction to the proposal, that the project area provides significant opportunity for sustainable growth in New York City due to its unmatched access to the region's rail and transit network. Yes, but not sure why this is on the docket. And of course, this is the proposal that let's get rid of all of those buildings that I've identified in the site and replace them with super tall glass towers, which mostly, as you can see by the color code, are office space. Not only office space, but a hunkin' lot of office space. As you can see here, most of that 19.6 million gross square feet would be devoted to office space. And I know at a time when most of us are telecommuting, and some of us may be telecommuting in the distant future, still we say, why is this necessary? And of course, the bigger problem is there are dozens of buildings who will be affected by this, a lion's share of which are worth preserving. And as you can see here, there are 10 eligible buildings eligible for the NYC landmark designation and 38 eligible for state and or national register status, all of which could be in some way impacted if this plan goes through. Now, the next phase was, you know, hey, Cuomo, you said this was going to be in benefit of Penn, but there was no Penn renderings. Then a couple of months later, actually a couple of weeks ago, he releases these renderings. And you can see in the renderings, this is what the neighborhood will look like with those buildings gone and the new super talls built. Barely recognizable. And I always say it's kind of weird when Madison Square Garden is the historical remnant of the neighborhood. It just feels and looks weird. And here are a couple of ideas of what the new Empire Penn Station could look like, again, with those new super talls surrounding it. And I don't know, I'm not impressed. Also, they seem to have figured out a way to make Penn more confusing. This is what the inside of what a redone Penn Station would look like. I have more, I didn't include them in this presentation because of time, but it's for somebody who knows Penn Station very well, like I have for the past 20 years, I don't even know where I am in these renderings anymore. And this is what we have so far. LIRR is under construction, will be done for East Side Access. It's being renovated and redone. This opening, or this entryway to 33rd Street opened in December, the day before Moynihan opened. Now, I'm going to wrap up this presentation just by giving you a very quick tour of some of the buildings that are in danger. And for those of you who joined us for our coalition, you may recognize these. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. First, and most importantly to us at Untapped, because our love is Penn, is the Penn Powerhouse. And we call it the Powerhouse, but technically the Pennsylvania Railroad called it the Station Service Power Plant. And this was the workhorse of Penn Station. It is also the largest physical remnant of Penn Station that we have left, often passed by most people, hidden in plain sight. And the job of this building was heating and lighting of the station. It was steam and compressed air, water supply for cars, compressed air for braking, hydraulic power for elevators, refrigeration for anywhere they use refrigerators in the complex. This building did it all. Here it is right there on site one. It's right in the line of fire. This is a picture of Penn Station, newly completed in 1910. You'll see there is the powerhouse. The powerhouse was actually completed in 1908, 2 years before the station was finished. So it is older than the station we lost. Just because I love this aerial photo from 1941, there it is again. You can see there were stacks. We lose the stacks. I believe it was 1979 or 1980 that we lost those stacks. And it's a McKim and White. It's built from the same granite of Penn. And it would be a shame if we lost this building. It is not landmarked. As a matter of fact, I believe somewhere Simeon will put the petition to help to landmark these buildings if you haven't already signed it. And my idea is, of course, if you want to build Penn Station South, why not repurpose this building as a grand entryway into Penn Station South, much like Moynihan? I'm going to show you a treat. A former employee who was given access to the powerhouse in 2018 sent us these photos of what's inside. And of course, for those of you who may be train fans, this board is going to really make your night. I've shown this to many train fans who just definitely can't get enough of these pictures. It's very, very impressive. And it's sitting in there rotting away. Love these staircases. Again, you can see definitely turn of the century Beaux-Arts in the way that even this powerhouse was designed. And again, you can see just by looking out, there's nothing going on in here. It's Amtrak's storage, but couldn't you imagine this as a great new entryway into an extended Penn Station? This is a tunnel connecting the powerhouse to Penn. Office space on the 3rd level, another connection tunnel. And these are actually back from 1997. Some of the, again, if you've ever been down in M42 at Grand Central, love these. And some graffiti there, and then another building. And the last building I will highlight is actually the most in danger, Hotel Pennsylvania, which could go any day now. Again, Hotel Pennsylvania is at Site 7. A beautiful black and white of the Hotel Pennsylvania completed. Largest hotel in the world, or one of them when it opened in 1919, January 25th to be exact. McKim and White, and again, built in concert with the station to be the station of the hotel. Run by the Statler Hilton Company for a while until 1958. It had changed hands many times. Got watered down from its original beauty, as you can see here. This room was the Café Rouge, a cultural force in New York music. Glenn Miller played his very famous Pennsylvania 6-5000 in this room. This room still exists. This fountain still exists, as a matter of fact. They tried to get an interior landmark on this room. It was denied. They tried to get a landmarking on the building. It was denied. There is a fairly current shot of what the Café Rouge looks like. Used as an event space, obviously, again, fallen from grace a little bit. But just before I talk about this, three more slides. Vornado, Steve Roth, chairman of Vornado, has said that they are going to demolish it. They own it. They have the right to. The city has already approved Penn 15, which is one of those very large office buildings, to replace it. And we think that it would be a major loss, not only to the area around Penn, but to the city and America in general. 2 other buildings. This is St. John the Baptist Church, which is, I think, one of the, if not the oldest building in the area. It was built in 1872. The spire was completed in 1890. Designed by architect Napoleon Lebrun, who was very actually known for firehouses. And a very active parish, as my colleague Brad Vogel likes to say. The doors are always open. There's always somebody in there, and still services the neighborhood. And lastly, the Stewart Hotel, built in 1927, built in association with George B. Post. Just a gorgeous building. And again, ready to be wiped right off the map to be replaced by a super tall. Oh, and of course we lose the Sky Bridge, the 3-story iconic Sky Bridge from Gimbel's. And our questions are why? And so Untapped New York has committed with the HDC to continue to build awareness around preserving and fighting to preserve these buildings and any landmarks or remnants in Penn, because it is important to the future of the city that we do so. And it is our honor to do so. And it is also our honor to accept our Friend in the Media Award this evening. So I thank you. And if you have any questions for me, happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Thank you so very much, Justin. Every time I hear you talk about Penn, I learn more and more. And also, I want to say that as one of our sort of media colleagues, Untapped New York has a very interesting position because you are really advocates for urbanism. And you are an activist group. So can you sort of talk about how that sort of both experience, how you function as both an experienced provider and an activist group? Because you are. I mean, it's kind of lovely.
It is. And so I always tell people on the tours, especially now when I'm actually as a tour guide leading people through Penn, I'm like, okay, get ready. I'm going to get soapboxy for a minute. But, the people are on the tour because they want to know this stuff. And so we feel at Untapped, and especially my job, is to give people the knowledge to make the decisions for themselves. And I just hope that I'm a good enough salesman that they actually side for preservation and what's good in urbanism. And actually, I encountered this weekend, funny you should say that, Simeon, my first opponent. He was like, I think this is a great idea. And he's actually he comes on all of the tours. He's a really nice guy. He's from Russia. He was born in Russia and he emigrated to New York a couple of years ago. And he said, these buildings are old and we need to put new buildings there. And I said, I appreciate your opinion. I said, but would you want to lose that sky bridge? And he goes, no, that sky bridge is beautiful. So I try to work it in there. I go the line. I respect opinions, but as I said to Michelle, I said, if there's ever a point that they need to actually chain me to the sky bridge, I might be out of work for a couple of weeks.
I respect that. That's it's something we don't do nearly enough in New York. And my other question to you is, how has, because Untapped, while you always had existed sort of virtually, through the medium, through online medium, but you had started pulling out actual tours and how has you were actually, let me step half back, you were actually well positioned to sort of deal with the last year of everybody locked inside but wanting to see New York.
Yeah.
How has that really impacted what Untapped has become? Because I know that you had a whole change as a company during this time.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things I didn't realize was, in putting together the experiences for in-person, tour groups of 15 to 20 people, that we were building an army of people who loved our tours because we were building awareness of the importance of them in our urban fabric and history. And all of a sudden, when we were hit with the pandemic, the three of us said we have to pivot very quickly if we want to survive, because the magazine wasn't going to cut it. We needed to continue to make sure the experiences continue to tell the story. And so we were very, very lucky that our virtual programming, which basically took our tours and made them virtual, whether by live streaming with a camera out in the field or just creating presentations. We had no idea it was going to have such a worldwide appeal. And, our insiders membership grew. And then, of course, they all became our best advocates. Simeon, when we put together the coalition back in, was it February or March? The insiders.
Who knows what time is anymore?
Yeah, I know. Like, what was it? That last year? The insiders were the first to sign it. They were the first to say, how can we help? And quite honestly, one of the most gratifying things was we have she may even be on here tonight. She said she was going to be here. An insider from London who said, how do London people sign this petition? Because you have to have an American address. And we were like, okay, use our office address. So I think to answer the long answer to your question was virtual programming just helped us to build a bigger base of global fans for preservation. And
that's fantastic. That's so it's so nice that's working out, and it's really growing the audience for for what we all love, which is, trying to preserve what's best about New York City, because it is, of course, the center of the universe. And it's nice that people from London and even people from Russia understand that. I feel very comforted by that.
Me too.
Thank you so much. Okay, now speaking of global stuff, I'm going to now turn it over to our next group, and it is my pleasure to introduce Maria Elena Giampino, who will be the first speaker. Maria Elena is I'm just going to say that, you're the person, you're like the fountainhead of the Elmhurst History and Cemeteries Preservation Society, which is a fantastic, very, very active and smart and forceful agency, assistant agency for preservation in Elmhurst, Queens. So, Maria Elena, please tell us everything.
Thank you, Simeon. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I can't take all the credit, though. I have amazing colleagues, my fellow co-founders of this organization. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit, and we've been together for about 6 years now, actively trying to raise awareness and advocating about our history and historic sites in Elmhurst. We basically got together because we saw that, a lot of sites were being lost, being forgotten. History was not known, and we really thought, we should do something. So we keep on going, and we're actually, we're doing great. We love the work that we're doing, and I have to thank my colleagues, like I said. Jim's on here, James and Jennifer. Thank you guys so much. I also want to say that on behalf of the Elmhurst History and Cemeteries Preservation Group, we would like to thank HDC for this meaningful award. A lot of tremendous work goes into these campaigns and the awareness, and it's really wonderful to be greatly recognized by our peers. I also want to, recognize, I know I mentioned Jennifer, but Jennifer Ochoa from our group, she, this cultural site was on our radar for a while, and she really helped us, and she's really responsible for getting a lot of this research together into the lives of Valentina and Alexander Janta-Polczynski. So thank you, Jennifer. I just finished being old, and she was the last survivor of the Polish government in exile. So as soon as we knew that she's gone, that we had to step in and start our campaign to save her house. The Janta-Polczynski house is a distinctive and unique house in Queens. I don't know any other one like it. It's a 1911 3-story gabled roof house, and we believe, and a lot of other people, elected officials, agencies, organizations, believe that this is a landmark-worthy cultural site. And our message tonight is for the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission to seriously act to calendar the site immediately. The site is in danger, and that is our strong message tonight. We cannot risk to lose a place so closely entangled with Polish American culture and history, Jewish history, and world events. But you don't have to be Polish or Polish American or Jewish to understand the importance of what the Janta-Polczynski house means for humanity, for racial justice and equality. I know we're going to get into to more history later on with my other colleagues from the coalition, so they'll get into that. But the Janta-Polczynski house is a testament to the issues related to humanitarian causes, heroism, and racial equality. And this is also relevant and ongoing in today's society here in the US and in the world. So that's my message. And I know we have a lot of other speakers to go, and they're going to go into more of the importance of the site. And I'll let them take it from here, my fellow colleagues from this coalition. I also want to thank you all for your assistance and your help and your raising awareness in this cause. So thank you.
Maria Elena, before we let you go, would you like Helen to put up some pictures of the house just so that people have a sense of it?
Sure. So yeah, this is the house. It's actually a very tall house. It does stick out from all the other houses in the area. Like I said, it's 3 stories. The cross gabled roof, and it actually has like a built-in balcony with the columns on the side. I mean, this is how the house looked throughout the Janta's owning it. So this is reminiscent of their little take on this house. So this is still the way they had it, and it's just so picturesque with all the greenery around it. But yeah, this is the house that we're trying to preserve. And I know there was some other slides. I don't know if you want to put up the slides later of Valentina, Alexander. Yeah, that's them together. That's Valentina and Alexander. And we have some great pictures of them.
Next, please, Helen.
Sorry, give me a sec. Those were the only 2 I had queued up.
I mean, you could also show them throughout. We just have some great pictures. We have a beautiful picture of Valentina. That's actually the picture that is on the petition that HTC has helped us with as well. We have a beautiful page dedicated on HTC's website for this cause, and there's a great picture of Valentina at her desk, during the World War II. So there's her. That's a great picture. We love that picture. It just shows you, brings you back to that time and that place and the work that she was doing.
Thanks, Maria. And then I think you're going to do the handoff to Tim, right?
I can just get started if that's okay. All right, sounds good. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. It's a great honor for our organization. Let me start my screen share here so we can we all see this?
Looks good.
All right, looks good. Okay.
If you want to actually do it as a slideshow, we can see your call.
If there's a problem, let me. I'll just run it as a slideshow, if that's okay. So my name is Tim Kuzma, and I'm National President and CEO of Polish Falcons of America. We're a fraternal benefit society with our national headquarters in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I have worked for the organization in various capacities since 1985 and have been president since 2008. As a fraternal organization, Polish Falcons is nonprofit. It's a member-driven community life insurance company. It provides life insurance and financial services while also giving back to the people we serve by reinvesting our profits into communities. We support upholding traditional Polish values by promoting financial security, active lifestyles, and social well-being. We have about 20,000 members nationwide. At this time, I'm going to go through this slideshow to give a little bit of the history of our organization and then how it kind of ties into the project for which we're being recognized. For some reason, okay. So the organization started in the United States in June of 1887 in Chicago, actually. This is a photo of the founder of the organization here in the United States. His name is Felix Petrovich with his wife, which we do not know her name.
Tim, actually, we're not seeing, you're not advancing through the slideshow.
Really?
We can see the maybe if you just hit the arrow button, you should, we can see the Polish Falcons. So if you hit the arrow button, you should be able to advance to the slideshow, perhaps.
Is that working? It's advancing on my screen. I don't know why it's not advancing in the, let me see.
You might want to try stop screen sharing and then, there we go. That's much better. Okay.
that working there? Can you see that slide too?
Perfect.
Good.
Perfect. Thank you.
So there is Mr. Petrovich and his unnamed wife. No, it's not advancing. The motto of organization in Polish is Zdrowym ciele, zdrowy duch, which is basically that maxim that goes in many languages and cultures of a healthy spirit and a healthy body, sound mind, sound body, etc. Our organization is modeled on what is called Sokol organization. Sokol is the Polish word for falcon. Organizations in Poland and Eastern Europe in the 1800s. Polish Falcons in the United States was created as a physical fitness organization. In January of 1894, lodges, which we call nests, clubs, lack of a better term, united to establish an alliance of Polish Falcons nests in the United States. They're called the Polish Falcons Alliance of America. Originally, the headquarters was in Chicago, moved to South Bend. And then in 1912, after a long story, it settled here in Pittsburgh. One of the important elements of our history is the involvement of our organization in World War I. As early as 1912, Polish Falcon members began conducting military training exercises for its members. They anticipated a war in Europe and saw it as an opportunity to fight for the liberation of Poland. And for those who aren't aware, at that time, there was no Poland on the map of Europe. It had been divided amongst Russia, Prussia, and Austria. Here, as you can see, this is a picture of young men in 1914 in Western Pennsylvania. It's interesting because the bottom part of the picture represents the physical fitness portion. You can see all the different physical fitness accoutrements that they were practicing and training with. But if you look in the back, the upper part of the picture, you'll see there are stacked rifles. So they were doing both things. They were doing what the organization was created for, but they were also preparing for war. Another picture of the training exercises. At a convention of the organization in 1917 in Pittsburgh, Polish statesman and pianist Ignacy Paderewski spoke to the delegates and issued a call to raise an army of Polish Americans to fight in World War I alongside the Allies. Again, the goal to establish a free and independent Poland. Training began, 40,000 recruits approximately, trained in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Canada, and eventually created the Polish Blue Army under the gentleman there in the slide, General Josef Haller. Result, November 11, 1918, the war ends and Poland is declared a country again. It is the last of President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points that an independent Polish state should be erected, and it was. So the organization played an enormous role in the establishment of a free Poland at the end of World War I. Moving forward, in March 1928, Polish Falcons officially became a fraternal benefit organization. Again, keeping it in Pennsylvania, and it returned back to its roots of physical fitness and athletics, no longer a paramilitary type organization. See some photos of early gymnastics, young men, and of course, young women who participated in the activities of the organization. Skipping forward to more contemporary times, you can see we're very still consistent in what we do as an organization dedicated to young members' physical fitness. This is one picture of one of our youth camps that we hold every year. Unfortunately, COVID has canceled a couple of those, but we'll be doing it again soon. Of course, we have adult activities as well. This is a picture of our one of our golf tournaments. The current organization, right now, there are 60 active nests divided into 8 districts, primarily in the Northeast. The farthest west is St. Louis, but everything is pretty much in the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, a little bit in Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, etc. And a basic summary of our activities and programs are our scholarship programs for members, future leader programs for young members, volleyball tournaments, youth camp, cultural opportunities in Poland, bowling tournaments, golf tournaments, and other local activities within our organization. So that's a kind of a historical overview of our organization. We were really proud to support the effort to preserve the Valentina and Alexander Janta-Polczynski house when we learned about it. We recognize that it's really important for any ethnic community to preserve and maintain its history, not only for the present, but for future generations. We can't define who we are without knowing and appreciating from where we came. And we can't forget the people who led the way in fighting for our freedom and liberty, as embodied by Valentina Polczynski. I also, in my work, serve as the National Secretary for the Polish American Congress, a partner of which the Polish Falcons is a member. And this is another organization that was greatly involved in this effort in preserving this historic landmark in New York. And at this time, I'm going to turn over this discussion to Klara Wisniewska, who is the administrator of the Polish American Congress National Office in Washington, D.C. And Klara is going to tell us more about Valentina Polczynski and the role that she played historically, and why we are both organizations believe that preserving her house in New York is such an important historical landmark for everyone, not only for Poles and Polish Americans, but for all Americans who really truly value freedom and liberty and everything that both countries, Poland and the United States, represent. So, Klara, it's all yours.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everyone. So the Polish American Congress is a national umbrella organization established in 1944, representing at least 10 million Americans of Polish descent and origin. Our organization's mission is to unify Americans of Polish descent, fight for their interests, promote respect for Polish heritage and history, and advocate for Poland. We are dedicated to persuading US governmental and American public opinion that a strong Poland supports US national security interests in Eastern and Central Europe and promotes the American values of free enterprise and democratic political institutions. I would like to tell you why Polish Americans want Valentina Janta-Polczynska's house to be designated a historic landmark. So let me start by sharing her life story with you. Upon her death in 2020, Valentina was the last surviving member of the Second World War era Polish state. This was the Polish government in exile based in London, England. She was a personal secretary and translator to Polish statesman General Władysław Sikorski, who was the head of the Polish government in exile. She aided war efforts by translating intelligence reports of Jan Karski, which detailed German war crimes and included earliest accounts of the Holocaust perpetrated against Polish and European Jews by Nazi Germany on conquered Polish territory. She was not only a translator, but an interpreter in meetings with Allied leaders, including Winston Churchill. Additionally, she was the founder of Dawn, a secret wartime resistance radio station, which broadcasted from London to occupied Poland. After the war, she joined the Polish Army's Women's Auxiliary Service and was tasked with interpreting for Polish prisoners of war and survivors of concentration camps. In 1949, Valentina got married and moved to New York, where she established an antique bookstore selling Polish literature and maps. She became a philanthropist and was at the center of culture and Polish-American affairs in New York. She hosted famous writers such as Zbigniew Herbert, Czesław Miłosz, composers, for instance, Karol Szymanowski, and even such distinguished figures as Mahatma Gandhi and Charlie Chaplin. Jan Karski also paid visits to her home. This Elmhurst home was a hub of artistic, cultural, literally Polish émigré elite in New York. We Polish Americans know Valentina as the First Lady of American Polonia. Her contributions have been recognized by the Polish government. She was awarded the Officer's Cross of the Order of Merit of the Republic of Poland. She was also a laureate of the Award of the Eagle of Jan Karski. Valentina was an exemplar of patriotism, activism, humanism, sense of community, and leadership during dangerous times. Her house is a witness to her outstanding achievements. Like her forebears in 19th century Europe when Poland was partitioned, Valentina worked for a free and truly sovereign Poland in post-war America. Her life story not only serves as a role model, but provides valuable lessons about the past that should not be forgotten. Valentina's legacy will be present to inspire and shine for future generations of Americans, Poles, and all other visitors by registering her house as a historic landmark. By visiting historic landmarks and museums, the public learns the cultural history of New York and its diverse communities which came together to make the city great. In this way, we create a conversation between past and present that gives us a sharper sense of ourselves. Valentina's home should not disappear from New York's landscape, since it enhances the spirit of the American nation. And what is a nation without a spirit? Will we be able to maintain this spirit, our collective consciousness, while our children are brought up in cities without places of culture and history? Will they be able to link their transient present with the solid achievements of our collective past without these sites? Historically significant structures can help attract investments and tourists to New York City. New businesses such as bookstores, antique stores, and restaurants thrive in an area with old buildings, and new ideas must often use old buildings or be in its proximity. The character of the area attracts tourists and clients, and Valentina's home adds character to Elmhurst. It is important to remember that when a piece of history is destroyed, it is lost forever. We urge the Landmark Preservation Commission to keep the history of Valentina alive by designating her home as an individual landmark. I urge our audience, please join our fight to save this house from being demolished by writing letters to the Landmark Preservation Commission in New York. Houses like Valentina's show the beauty of diversity and document the many aspects of culture and history in America, a place we all call our home. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. Alfonso, tossing it to you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this very wonderful award. Really appreciate the acknowledgement. And a lot of this does go to a lot of the other people that I was working with on this campaign. You know, the folks from the Elmhurst History and Cemeteries Preservation Society have been amazing. You've got Jennifer Ochoa, you've got James, you've got Maria Lena, you've got Kelly Carroll from the Historic Districts Council, who's just been amazing. And it feels really good to be able to help an important issue like this out. And we have to do everything we can to be able to preserve this house. And we are at a juncture right now where we really need to be able to move, because it is in danger of being demolished. So this award comes at the right time, because we really need to promote a lot of, to promote our wishes for this building, which is obviously to landmark it. I was, if it's possible, I'm going to share my screen and just play a couple of the videos in the background while I'm, it says host disabled participant share screen share. Okay, all right, here we go. Just bear with me.
Hold on a sec. Can you do that? Or do you need me to get in and
I think I can do it.
remember to click that weird little thing to allow for video sound to come through
Can you see my
on
screen?
the Zoom?
Can you see my screen?
We can, yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So I'm not going to play the sound. I'll just play this in the background so you can see it, and just
Perfect.
so that you get an idea of what we were doing. But So I'm somebody, I have always considered myself a storyteller and a communicator. And when the good folks at the Elmhurst History and Cemeteries Preservation Society came to me and told me about this house, it must have been 2.5, 3 years ago, maybe. I was just fascinated. I knew I wanted to be able to get involved. There's two things that I love. I love video production and I love history. And this was exactly something that I knew that I wanted to be involved in. And I'm so glad that I'm involved in it with such wonderful people in Elmhurst. And so what we did is that we, first thing that we did is I started a social media page called Inside Elmhurst. And what we did is that it was really there to promote Elmhurst history and Elmhurst culture and current events. And what we wanted to do is also have, build a group of people who would follow us. So we put this video together that you're seeing now about the Elm, sort of a 101 on the house and who Mrs. Janta was, who her husband was. And we posted this, and this is about a 2-minute video. I got the photos from either Google or the group gave them to me. And we did, 2 or 3 interviews with a few people who could sort of talk about the history of the house and why it was important for us to save it. And I edited it together and put music behind it. You can see them all on YouTube. So that was sort of our first step of what to do, is that we knew that we needed to promote it in video format so that people could, see exactly what we were talking about and why this story was so important. And then what we did is that we had a couple of events to call attention to this. We reached out to the press and we got them interested. We've had a number of different stories on almost every channel in New York City to cover it. So we have done a really amazing job with promoting it, and we will continue to do so. We've also held a rally outside the house in September. And about a month ago, we held a candlelight vigil for Holocaust Remembrance Day. And we were very, very lucky to find a survivor that was nearby, who came, and we were very, very proud of that. He was, I think, 100 years old, and he came to the house and he spoke to the media that was assembled there with us, and for Holocaust Remembrance Day. So, our efforts were, we're waiting for this house to be landmarked, and once it is, I'm going to say that we are a success. I'm very, very happy with all the PR that we've been able to try and rescue this house. And some very similar things. My main suggestion for groups that are wanting to promote their historic sites is to keep when you're putting to report. Everyone in different desk numbers, and so obviously you could find that out, call them, and keep it very simple. A lot of times what people do, unfortunately, is they want to write a press release that is 3 pages long with every bit of every detail in it. That is not the way that you get a reporter's attention. Remember, you've got probably about 3 or 4, maybe up to 10 seconds to get a reporter's interest. So you have to be really fast, keep the headlines very simple, and don't put every piece of information in the press release or in your first pitch to reporters. And you will get reporters interested. We were very lucky because this really was a wonderful story behind this house, and it was a very visual event, so it was very nice to be able to put together a video on this. But I'm very, very proud to have started Inside Elmhurst, which is a social media page on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. But I'm really, really, really proud of the work that I've been able to do in conjunction with Elmhurst History and Preservation Society and the great folks there. We would not have been able to do any of this without them.
Thank you. And
Any questions?
what a terrific, hold on a sec, let me get my, But what a terrific video depiction that is. Something that you really touch on is that we all forget that preservation is a visual field, and pictures really are worth 1,000 words. And I especially appreciate your comments about how to best project to our friends in the media, which is what we, that's a nice marriage of what we were talking about earlier. So thank you. I actually have a question for Clara, for Timothy, for Maria Elena, and for you, Alfonso. I mean, when we first heard about this at the Historic Districts Council, it was Maria Elena who brought it up. I was shocked. I was genuinely shocked that this is sort of a hidden history that is not part of the discussion about New York, is not part of the discussion about the diaspora, about 20th century. I mean, okay, let me just blow this out. This is internationally important. This is a super, super significant site that anywhere else in the goddamn world we would have saved already. How did you find out about this? And how do we explain to people that this is a woman who talked about how the Nazis killed millions of people?
Well, so I'll go first. I know you sort of threw that up to everybody, but
Yeah.
no, I can go first. So I was in contact with James McMenamin and Jennifer Ochoa, and they came to me and they knew of my interest in Elmhurst. Elmhurst is oftentimes forgotten in our city, and not a lot of people realize that it is one of the oldest places in New York that goes back to the Revolutionary days. And
Newtown.
that's right. And so when you're thinking about historic New York, you're thinking about places like Flushing, and you're thinking about Lower Manhattan, but Elmhurst is right there with them, and a lot of times they've been forgotten. And one of the things that we're trying to do is put it right back on the map to make sure people understand exactly what the history is here. But they came to me and they told me about this lady who was extremely old, 100, I think at that point, 105 or 106. And I said, okay, we have to get an interview with this woman. I will bring a microphone. We will, and Jennifer and I, Jennifer was so wonderful trying to get a hold of her, and she had a caretaker who wouldn't let us in, and there was a language barrier because they only spoke Polish. And so we finally, after trying to deal with the caretaker back and forth through the window, she finally let us into the door. And so we walk in, and I knew I didn't want to bring a camera and shove it in somebody's face. So you had to, you have to deal with somebody who's very fragile, a 107-year-old woman. You're not going to try to intimidate her. So we walked in and we saw her, and she was smiling, and she spoke to us, and she was speaking in Polish, but it was amazing to sit there and talk with her. And yes, she was a frail older woman, but she was smiling and she was laughing, and she so enjoyed our company. And it was just wonderful to be able to meet this woman. And we still tried to, I was inching to get like an interview, like, can we put a microphone here and just record anything she's saying? And the caretaker really wasn't comfortable with us doing it. So I said, all right, let's try for another time. And unfortunately, that's right when the pandemic happened. And, Mrs. Janta passed away, not because of COVID, but she passed away.
Because,
so we actually,
right.
we missed our opportunity to interview her. But we are not going to miss any more opportunities. We are going to do everything we can to save this house, because this is an incredible story. And I'm just very, very proud to work with some incredible people, Maria Elena, Jennifer and James, and just everybody. It was really very, very proud to work with such smart and just wonderful people that are really pushing this along.
Clara, Timothy.
Yeah,
Yes.
to add, one of the things I wanted to say first in listening to Alfonso is there are a few things that intimidate Polish women, first of all. Let me just clarify that. I'm married to one, I know all my life, so That's a fact. And I think Clara doesn't even need to back that up. She just knows that. Ask her husband. But to his point, though, the larger point of the historical importance of this project and why we got involved with it is because, as I mentioned before, I'm president of a fraternal organization with members literally in every state. They live in all the states. And so why are we getting involved in Elmhurst, New York? Most of our members would say, "Where's that?" We don't have no idea. But as you pointed out, the historic significance of this goes beyond just Elmhurst, New York. This is true and absolute history, and of an individual that I wasn't familiar with at all, to be honest. Initially, I had no awareness of this, and then it was brought to us, and we said, yeah, that we have to, because this is important not only for organization but for our entire community. And so that's why we stepped into it, and we're really, like I said, we're really proud to be a part of it, and we hope it is ultimately successful in keeping it for all the reasons that Clara pointed out. And it just goes beyond that little house on that street in Elmhurst. It's truly international. This isn't just some local thing that's happening over there. If you're Polish or Eastern European or have any sense of any kind of history, you should care about this. Point blank, end of story. And that's why we became involved in it, and we're so delighted and honored to be acknowledged for it. But Clara, did you want to say anything or add anything to that?
Yes, so I wanted to say that I had heard about Valentyna Janta-Polczynska before and her numerous contributions, but I wasn't aware that her house was in danger of being demolished. I learned about it from Kelly Carroll from the Historic District Council and from Marielena Giampino from Elmhurst Preservation Society. I'm very glad they reached out to us. We're very thankful for that. I'm very happy to be here and represent the Polish American Congress, and we are very thankful for the recognition you gave us. Yes, and we hope that that we will save this house from being demolished. Yeah, so that's all for now.
Well, thank you both, Timothy and Clara and Alfonso. I believe that Mary Elena actually has, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, Mary Elena.
Yes,
You have an announcement to make
I do.
about some new support.
Oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, I almost forgot about that. So we're still working on just, trying to get the awareness out there, trying to get everyone, just to know about this important site. I know everyone has said, beautiful things about the importance of the site and, what it means to not only Queens, New York City, but, really the world. So we're still actively pursuing support. We're actively pursuing, just getting the word out there. We really can't say enough that we're working on this every day. I will say that we did get some new support yesterday, and it's wonderful news. We got a support letter from the Consulate General of the Republic of Poland in New York, and they sent their support letter to the LPC, and that happened yesterday. So that's wonderful news. That's great. I will share the letter with Timothy and Clara as well. And Alfonso. I know, Simeon, you have a copy of it, so we were really happy about that. But like I said, we're not stopping. This is something that we are actively going to just keep on driving home, because this site needs to be a landmark. It needs to be a landmark. And Elmhurst is like an onion. Like we know about our history, but then as we keep on finding new sites and meet new people, and we just find more and more and more. And that's what happened with this house. We knew about this woman, her extraordinary life, and she was kind of like a mystery. And we heard about her through older people in the community. So Jennifer was like, we're like, we have to do more research. And once Jennifer did more research, we just found so much, and we're like, wow, this site is important on so many levels. So that's kind of how it happened for us, because like we saw this tall house. We actually have our civic meetings in another historic building right next door. And we would see this house and we'd like, were in awe, like we were like this mysterious woman. So that's how we really just kind of found out more information, and we wanted to learn more. And we were just contriving our research. Jennifer did an amazing job at that. And then when we were ready to just go forward, like, okay, we need to preserve and we need to landmark this house. So that's how that happened. It's a pretty amazing story.
You're doing great work. You should really push the fact that the consul to Poland is actually writing to the Landmarks Commission, the silly little agency in New York City, which is so very important in this one aspect, to say that, no, this house is important. This house where she lived for 45 years.
Yeah, maybe more. I'm bad at math.
Yeah, but I mean, since the 60s, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
So that's over 50 years.
Yeah.
You know, where people like Lech Walesa and other, you know, people from Poland continue to visit, and really, it was a hub for the Polish diaspora, and these are important cultural places.
You know, Simeon, it's Alfonso. I think it's wonderful that we as a society and as a city are recognizing that historic places can be more than buildings that are designed and built by famous architects. It could be a building or a home that has culture attached to it, or a story attached to it, a story about New York, a story about women, a story about World War II. That's what's really important. So I think we need to start to look at how we landmark these buildings, and that just because a building or some sort of structure is not designed by a famous architect, or has beautiful stone work or anything like that, if it has a story behind it, it is worth saving, because you are telling a very important story that 100 years from now people are going to want to know, and they should know.
And I can't agree with you more. And while it's nice to put a plaque in front of a space, that, you know, it is so much better to actually physically encounter the history and say, this is where Valentina and Alexander lived, and were the center, the intellectual center of the Polish diaspora. You saw those books over 50 years. I mean, that's remarkable. So thank you all very, very much. Okay, I've kept everybody 17 minutes longer than I'd said. We all have exciting, soon-to-be non-pandemic lives where hopefully everybody is either vaccinated or shall be soon, and we can all go out and see each other in public soon. So thank you all so very, very much. I hope to see everyone next Wednesday for the next installment, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you all for your work. You are really well
you.
depended on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.